So we're saying here in this week's parsha, so at the end of the parsha, David already went through some of it. David Klitnik already went through it. But we'll say it again quickly. What I want to say is that Moshe Rabbeinu brought all 3 million Jewish people to come to listen to him speak. And all 3 million people came because when a Talmid Chacham, when a rabbi is filled with Torah is going to speak to you, that's the one we come to hear speak. They hear like all the politicians now are speaking, and the people come, they line up for all around blocks, and they have to come have appointments, and they have to be frisked by the CIA and the SS or whatever people they have to frisk them. Whatever these guys are called, Secret Service. They have to they have to frisk them, and they have to go in and they listen to the comedian. The politician saying there's certain things that he's been saying every single place he goes. Now people come and they cheer, but there were politicians in 1973. There were politicians. 1965, they said a lot of different words, but no one cares what they had to say. If someone has a newspaper, yesterday's newspaper, no one wants to read it because it's yesterday's news. Who needs it right now? Who needs it anymore? That was yesterday. A whole slew of different things happened. Just like yesterday's newspaper is meaningless, today's newspaper is also going to be meaningless tomorrow, so it might as well be meaningless right now today. It's only the words of the Torah that we run, that the times of the Gemara and the times of the Chumash, that the superstars of Klal Yisrael were the Rabbanim, were the rabbis. That Yishai, the father of David, the Gemara says, had a shir. There were 600,000 people came to a shir. They didn't have microphones there. They didn't have the big screens, the big screens to watch it, and with it magnified, it's so loud that you don't have to have ears anymore. It's so loud. But then they used to have, turgumans with very loud voices, and like every 100 feet there'd be another. He'd say very loud what the Rebbe had to say. So the next guy 100 yards down would say it for the next group all the way down. And all the way, everyone, they went out of the way to be able to hear what the rabbi said. They came to the shir because when a person is filled with Torah, so he has words to say, so he's saying words that are going to give you life. That the whole purpose of the Torah, it's okay. The whole purpose of the Torah is that we should understand how to take these words and use it in my life immediately, and my life is going to be bettered from it. Yes? Everybody comes to go to the movie theater, and they this and that. They play little bocce ball, they hit the balls on the ankles like this, grown men doing these things. And they get paid money for doing it. I don't know why. But that's what they're doing over there. They're kicking the ball around like this. Grown men. Okay. So they don't want their children to see. The children will be ashamed of them. But when a person comes, he's learning the words of Torah. He's saying words that I can take these words to heart, and now I can change my life with these words of Torah. And then all running to see Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, you saw everything that Hashem did for you in Eretz Mitzrayim. Yes? Your eyes themselves saw it. You saw what he did to Paro, the Chol Avadav, and all of his servants and all of his country. You saw the great signs. You, with your own eyes saw it. You saw wonders and great wonders. And Hashem did not give you a lave, a mind to understand it, or eyes to see it, or ears to hear it until this day.
What do you mean?
Which he's saying that 40 years ago all this happened. 40 years ago it happened. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying 40 years later, finally today, Hashem has now given you the ability to understand what happened to you 40 years ago. Which means we're saying that Hashem gives us everything that happens in our lives, and He also gives us a mind to be able to understand these things. You see a person whose mind is not so healthy, so things can happen to him, and he doesn't really understand it. I have all these, I have little children, right? And so the basement, they don't want to go in the basement by themselves. It's because they are afraid of what's in the basement. They don't understand that the same things on the basement as on the first floor. It's not, but because it's the basement, there's a little bit of a fear, and then they don't want to go down there. But they have to, but that's because they don't understand clearly. People don't understand things. So many times people will see things and they'll misunderstand what it is. And they'll be afraid of things they don't have to be afraid of. So because they don't really understand what it is. And the more a person understands something, the less he'll be fearful of it. Hashem is going to help. So much distractions here, it's crazy. So they're saying here that not only Hashem caused all the things in the world to happen to us, but He gives us a mind to be able to understand what those things are. Yes, things can happen to people and they completely misread it. They don't understand it at all. For things to happen to you and for you to be able to understand what happened to you is also a gift from Hashem. It was a person who was a crazy person. He lost his mind. And he would run from morning till night. He was always on the go because he felt people were chasing him. And he even took big sheets of plastic and wrapped them around themselves because he felt the plastic was a protection, a force field against all these things that were after him. And one time we were in yeshiva and we were learning, and this fellow came into the yeshiva and he sat down. He sat down for maybe 4 seconds and he got up to leave. And the Rebbe who was giving the shir said, "You don't have to leave." He said, "Yes, I do. They're after me." The Rebbe said, "No one's after you." And the man thought the Rebbe was crazy. He said, "Yes, they are." And he left because he didn't have a mind to understand what was happening to him. And that's why you need to have a Rebbe to be able to understand. What is it? You need a Rebbe to tell you there's nobody after you. There was one time, I have to tell this story. There was one time, it was in yeshiva, and I was saying over the Rebbe said the shir, and then we would say it over. Yes? I'm going to do something that's really strange. In a few seconds, I'm going to do something really strange. So I just want to prepare you for it. And I was saying over the shir really very beautifully. I was mamish, I had it down pat. It was very complicated Gemara. I was saying it very clear. And I got done saying it. No one else in the shir understood it. And I was saying it over so beautifully. And then I stopped saying it. And then there was a person who was sitting over there. And all of a sudden I saw him do this. To me, like this. It scared me to death. I was so scared like this. I could not believe a person would do that. And the Rebbe ended the shir. And I said to the Rebbe, "Can I speak to you for a moment?"
You weren't the Rebbe?
No, I wasn't the Rebbe. So I was the Rebbe. He was saying over the shir. Then they gave us a chance to say it over. So I said it over to everybody. And I was the only one of the Talmidim there that understood it. So this person did this weird, like he wanted to tear out my throat with his teeth or something. So I went and I spoke to the Rebbe and I told him what happened. He said, "Stick with me, you'll be okay." I'll watch out for you. And when I went back in, I sat back down. This person he stood up like this. I can't know if the camera can see me. He stood up and he turned and he walked like a robot outside the yeshiva and slammed the door. Yes? So I was pretty much freaked out about this.
When you were in yeshiva, you were both the same age.
Could be he was the same age. I don't know, maybe he was younger. I don't know what he was. But the point is that I had a Rebbe who told me that everything's going to be okay. I spoke to him afterwards. He said to me that the more you think about it, the more you get bothered about it, the more this person's going to have power over you. So you should just forget about it. So because you have a Rebbe, so then you're able to understand things. You need to have a Rebbe to be able to how to understand things. In what way am I supposed to understand? This strange thing happened to me. How am I supposed to understand this? So he's saying here that Hashem, and also it's telling you that there's a certain time in which you are to understand something. Hashem said, okay, throw it back. They're kicking the neshama around like this. They're kicking around this way. So they had to bring it over here. It didn't bother us enough over there, so they had to come over here to kick it over there. Okay. What am I going to do? So the Hashem said, he's having too much of an easy job now. I have to move them over here now. So saying that Hashem also has a timetable of when we are to be able to understand something. I was telling you, Dovi over here that my son, one of my sons, so when the first year he went to yeshiva, he tried as hard as he could. He was so diligent, he put in so much effort, but he could not understand anything that was being taught to him. He could not retain any knowledge. It's from Hashem. Hashem loves me. He wants me to really work hard. So, eventually, just think of something important happened. Yeah, so the thing, so the boy, he couldn't retain any information. They would tell him Aleph, they would tell him Beis, then they would go back and he didn't know. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, he didn't know. He couldn't say it. He would say Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, come back 2 minutes later. He can't tell you what it is anymore. He did it the first year, the second year, the first 3 years of school. He could not do it. He did not know. He did not understand. And the school was thinking that we have to let him go. But they said we're going to keep him because they said he has such good midos. He's trying so hard. He's constantly, every single day, he's so frustrated. He's constantly putting in the work. Because he exhibited such good midos, they said that we're going to, we're going to keep on working with him because he's trying so hard. He's my youngest son. And it wasn't until last year, his 4th year in school, then he finally, his mind opened up and he understood everything, now he knows better than all the other boys in his class. But there's a time in which Hashem says that now you're supposed to understand something. There could be many young people talking about terrible things that happen to them, and they aren't very terrible things, and they can't imagine why Hashem should do such a thing to them. Why, if there's a Hashem in the world and Hashem is so good, why did he cause such a thing to happen like this to me? So that's the same thing. At this point right now, Hashem hasn't let you know why this is. Everything Hashem does, he does for the good, but not right away do we understand what the good is. There could be many times when there's young people who go through very traumatic experiences. It's so that when they become adults, they can be in a profession in which they can deal with young people and they can deal with them in a greater sensitivity than a person who's never been through that traumatic experience. Could be that's the reason. There could be there's a billion different reasons. Maybe that might be the reason. A person now has. I remember when I was a young boy, and I would be bullied, and I would see other kids being bullied, and I would see adults just standing around, and they were doing nothing, and I would watch kids being bullied, and I'd watch adults just standing around and not doing anything, and I would think if they would just say one word. Just stop it. Knock it off. That would be the end of this kid's suffering. But they didn't do it. Why didn't they? So I tried to figure. I was like 9 years old. I said, why aren't they doing anything? So I said, because we're little kids, and they think the things we suffer are like little. Because we're little, our suffering is little. They don't know that little suffering to us is very big. Yes, this is a thought I had when I was 9 years old. And I said to myself, when I become an adult, when I see kids that are being bullied, I'm going to make sure I put an end to it. So I became a counselor, a camp counselor, whatever I was. I grew up, always, made sure that kids weren't bullied because I went through it myself. Yeah, so you can't say, why did Hashem put me through it? Hashem put me through it because he wanted me to help all the boys that are coming, all the boys that I'm going to help in the future. Also, in addition, it's saying like this. Also, there was a great Baal Tshuva who was a great movie star in Israel. Like he was the greatest performer. He was like the most famous personality. He was the most famous personality in Israel. Yes, his name is Uri Zohar. You have to go? Okay. Let me just finish this one story. Uri Zohar was the most famous. He was like, take all the 10 most famous people in America and roll them together. That's how famous he was in Israel. He was a letz, he was a comedian, he was a movie star, talk show host, TV shows. Mamish, he was famous and he became a Baal Tshuva. He became from. And he told the story that when he was sitting there trying to learn Gemara, no matter how hard he tried, he could not understand what he was learning until he had to pray to Hashem and cry to Hashem and beg Hashem to please open up his mind. He should be able to understand. And finally Hashem did. And one more thing I'm going to tell you. There's a certain plant called the Chinese bamboo. Yeah, it's called the Chinese bamboo. You plant the seeds in the ground and you water it for an entire year and you'll see absolutely nothing from the ground. You water it for the second year. Every single day you're watering it. You'll see absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. A third year, a fourth year, a fifth year, you're watering it for 5 complete years. There's absolutely nothing growing from it until it starts. Don't worry. It's what can you do? It's the Yetzer Hara. They can't go over there. You couldn't go over there because you can't kick it over there. Why can't you over there? Why can't you just take it over there?
Can you play
Over there. Play over there. There's not a space there. But you don't have space because you keep on kicking it over here. Maybe you want us to join though. You want us to, we could kick it back to you. We could. So stupid. Anyway, what can we do? They won't move though. Okay. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's from Hashem. So let's go on. So after 5 years of watering the Chinese bamboo, so then it starts to grow. But when it grows, within 30, 40 days, it grows 40 feet. Yes? For 5 years, there's absolutely nothing. For 5 years, are you driving somewhere? For 5 years, there's absolutely nothing. And after 5 years of watering it, within a period of a few weeks, it grows 40 feet. So in other words, if you have any kind of plant, what?
How would someone discover that plant?
No, but you see it though. It's the only thing that grows so quickly, you can actually see it growing. If you have a plant, you sit there and look at your plant, you're not going to see it. You'll come back 3 days later, and you'll see that your plant, it did grow. But if you look at a lima bean plant, you're not going to see it grow. This Chinese bamboo grows so quickly, you can actually look at it, you can actually see it growing. So that's a mashal for us. That many times, and my friend over here can tell you it's the truth, many times you're putting Torah inside yourself, and absolutely nothing. You can't see any change in yourself. Yes? You can't see any change in yourself. But all of a sudden Hashem opens up your mind for you to be able to understand. And then an unbelievable change happens to a person, that all the things he's been learning comes to fruition in an instant. Everything in the world that happens in the world is for the purpose to teach us something in the spiritual world. The Gemara says that everything that's on this planet is also in the Shemayim, the same parallel, which means everything that's in this world, there's a parallel in ruchnis, in spirituality, something about the ways of Hashem that I can understand through looking at the physical things in the world. The Chinese bamboo teaches this one lesson, that a person could be putting so much goodness in Torah and he sees no change in himself. I'm not changing, not growing any smarter, I'm not understanding things better.
Why would Hashem make someone suffer for like 5 years?
Because he wants everything come. What's the greatest gift on planet Earth? What's the greatest gift Hashem can give somebody? The greatest gift is the gift of being able to accomplish something. If a person inherits $1 million, his father gives him, just inherits $10 million in one shot, okay, that's a nice thing maybe it's a nice thing. But if a person goes from a penny and able to work hard and build it up to get $10 million, so then he's actually accomplished very great things. He's become a very great person because he accomplished something. Hashem makes things difficult because he wants us to push it through, to keep on pushing and not give up. And once we succeed, or once Hashem allows us to succeed, we become a far greater person. Yes? If everything was so easy, like everything is in this world nowadays, we make everything so easy, so you don't get anywhere. It's when a person, things are extremely difficult and a person refuses to give up and he keeps on trying, that's when he becomes great. The greatest gift that Hashem can give a person is not to give to him. Yes? Hashem sees a person and he really wants to give some, but if I give this thing to this person, it'll ruin a person. I want to win lotto. Hashem, please beg you, let me win lotto. I pray to you, Hashem. Hashem says, I want you to win lotto. You're very deserving. You should win lotto. But I see that if you win lotto, it's going to be the worst thing for you. What? Why would it be the worst thing? Because a person can be absolutely ruined with instant wealth. Every single... That's not the point. The point is, if all of a sudden that you live your life as a poor person, all of a sudden you get money, you don't know what to do with the money. You don't know how many people, if you had a book of all the people who won Lotto, made a big book about it, I would say a vast majority of the people would say they wish they never won. The person won $300 million. After they took the government took their share away, it was like $700 million. He ended up getting $330 million. Right? Right, he got $330 million. Do you think I'd be happy? He built a home, he built a pool, he put a dome over his pool. He created a new atmosphere in his home, so on and so forth. His grandchild drowned to death because they fell to the bottom of the pool. His daughter was able to buy nice special drugs, so she died from an overdose. He was constantly being robbed. Someone broke into his car and stole $100,000. I mean, I don't know about you, but I also have $100,000 in my glove compartment. Why not? He had $100,000 in his glove compartment. Someone broke into his, and he said, "Who needs $330 million? My life would be far better if I didn't have it." A black person in Jacksonville, Florida, won $17 million. Yes? And people called them up and they said, "We're investors and we want to invest your $17 million. It should become much more." And they were stealing from him until they figured out they were stealing from him. And then they killed him and shoved him in a trunk of a Chevrolet in an abandoned yard. What? Right. But the thing is, if he hadn't won it, no one would have bothered him. He would have had his job working in Wendy's takeout, and he would have been a happy person and still alive. But my point is, he asked the question, so what's wrong if you win Lotto? It's a lot of things. There was this young girl, she was 19 years old, and she was an assistant kindergarten teacher. She wasn't even good enough to be the kindergarten teacher. She was an assistant kindergarten teacher in Merrifield, England. And a terrible thing happened to her. The Prince of England decided that she should be his wife. Yes, Princess Di. The princess that was going to die. So they called her Princess Di. That was it. And her life, at the moment she became a princess, her life became miserable because the paparazzis, how do you say it in plural, come after them taking pictures. "Hey, princess, small here." She wants to go there and she's wiping her mouth and just staying over here and they take a picture of it. And, she comes and she falls on the ground like this. They take a picture of it and put it on the front pages. Everything embarrassing, everything, yes.
The bad stories, not the good ones.
But I'm telling you that, right, he said the thing is that if a person, I'm telling you the vast majority, some people aren't able to handle it, but if those people are able to handle it, it's because they do it in a different way. For example, they won't pick up their money right away. They'll go to lawyers and investors and get everything set up beforehand. Yes? The answer is like this, my friend. The answer is Shlomo Melech. When Shlomo Melech was 12 years old, Hashem came to him in a dream. And he said, I'm going to give you a choice. You can either have wealth, you can either scream like a maniac. You can scream like a maniac over nothing. No, he didn't say that. They said you can have wealth, you can have honor, fame, or you can have wisdom. Oh, he left. Here come the answer to the question. Okay, so I'll answer his question to you. He said, Hashem said to him, you can either have wealth, you can have fame, or you can have wisdom. Your choice. Which one do you want? He was 12 years old. He said, he didn't say like, I want to go on a date with a pretty girl. No, he didn't say that. He said that he wanted to have wisdom. And Hashem said to him, since you made such a wise choice, you chose wisdom, I'm going to give you also wealth, and I'm going to give you fame. Why did Hashem do that? Because since he had wisdom, now he knew what to do with the wealth, now he knew what to do with the fame. Yes? If he chose wealth, he would have lost it immediately. If he chose fame, he would have drove him to the next world immediately. Because he didn't have the wisdom to be able to know what to do with these things. Because Hashem, it says that Hashem gives wisdom to the wise. You think, well, why should Hashem give wisdom to the wise? They're already wise. So why give it to them? Because they're the ones that know what to do with wisdom. You can't give wisdom to a fool. He doesn't know what to do with the wisdom.
The more you know how much you don't know.
Right. Okay, yes. So what? Right, so he's wise. That the Chazon Ish said that. He said that when he moved into his home in Bnei Brak, And after a while, they put a light pole on next to his home, and he's very thankful to that light pole because he learned a Torah lesson from it. That the further away he was from the light, the bigger was his shadow. And the closer he got to the light, the smaller was his shadow. So he said, when you're further away from Hashem's light, when you're far away from the true knowledge of Hashem, you think you're so big, you think you're so great. Like the shadow is so big and great. The closer you get to the light, the closer you get to the truth, your shadow gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so you realize you know less and less and less. The more you learn, the more you know that, like he said, you need to learn. When a person has to be able to have wisdom, to be able to know how to deal with fame, and know how to, there's so many people, and they had this book. The name of the book, I always wanted to buy this book. I think it's out of print. But the name of the book was They Died So Young. And it's a 1,000-page book of every single famous person in America, and each person died so young. Marilyn Monroe died so young. Julie Garland. Somewhere over the rainbow, she took barbiturates. That's what she did. She took barbiturates, and she died so young. So many of them, because they didn't know what to do with their fame. It was too much for them. So a person, like he said, he has to go to Moshe Rabbeinu. He has to learn Hashem's Torah. And once he has the Torah is the instruction manual for life. And once you have all the information, or as much information as you can, to put into your mind, then a person will know how do you deal with fame? How do you deal with riches? What? Okay. What do you do? What do you do when you're married? That's a whole wisdom to know what to do. That your wife should be happy. That's a wisdom. And money's not going to solve that problem. Fame's not going to solve it. But wisdom would. You have to have a Rav who also has shalom bayis with his wife. And you go to that Rav and you speak to him, and he'll help you to be able to. How do you get along with your boss? How do you get along with your employees? How do you get along with your customers? How do you get along with your neighbors who want to persecute you and call the police on you every time you do something, your kids do something wrong? It's all a wisdom to know how to deal with everything. And all of this is all in the Torah. Yes? And so with this, Hashem should help us. And Rosh Hashanah is coming. We're going to end here. Rosh Hashanah is coming, in which now Hashem's going to make a decision on our life for this year and for the rest of our life. And this is the time in which we can truly daven and do tshuva, and the change. Hashem can give us a whole different type of year, depending on the efforts that we put in now. If someone's going to go before a judge, and he can fool around and do worse things, and the judge will give him 50 years in prison, or he can be sincere and do tshuva and change himself, and the judge will say, okay, you're okay, just go home. It's all up to you during this time now, during the month of Elul. And Kasima Tova, Guga Ben Shur. Thank you. Now to Bocce Ball.